Hi, everybody. No, I don't have any slides. I'm just going to freestyle. First off, Solana's never opened for me before, so thank you so much. I'm glad I don't have to fight Diego. That guy's big. But it's so good to be here in Rio de Janeiro. This is an amazing event, and it's grown quite a bit in just such a short period of time. I was talking to Rafa. Where's Rafa? Oh, there he is. And he was telling me about the humble origins, and to see so many amazing projects here. Fabric is here, Chainlink is here. Obviously, we have BNB and Solana and others. And that just shows you the diversity of the industry as a whole, all the people inside the industry as a whole. I've been in the industry for 12 years now. And I just recently shaved because I wanted to convince myself I was still young. So yes, I am Charles Hoskinson, even though I don't have the beard. And then actually the day I shaved, I was reaching for my shoes and I fell over and my back went out and I was like a turtle on the ground. So I guess I am getting old. But in just 12 years' time, I never could have imagined to watch something with the humble origins of Bitcoin to turn into what we see here today. It's extraordinary. Everywhere in the world you go, there's people that are building. And why are they building? They're building because they want to fundamentally change the economic, political, and social systems of the world. Everywhere you look, there's a problem. Problem with voting systems, problem with sound money, problem with social networks, problem with AI, problem with this, that, and the other. And are you happy? No. You want to change it. And normally how you change things is you have some form of a political change. You go and vote somebody out, you put a new person in, you have a revolution, you start a company, make some money, take over a product, but seldom is a change permanent, and even if it is, it's a change for some but not for all. And the magic of the cryptocurrency and blockchain industry, regardless of where in it you happen to sit, the ethos of it is change for all and can't be evil instead of don't be evil. And so what I wanted to talk today about was to go through the generations and say that we're in the beginning of, I would argue, one of the last generations of cryptocurrency before we have mainstream adoption. We're right actually at the cusp of it. We've gone from nothing to hundreds of millions of people throughout the world, and we're one step away from billions of people in fundamentally transforming everything. So in the beginning, there was Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was the first to actually pull all the pieces together. Prior to that, there was the cypherpunk movement from the 1980s and beyond, academics and programmers and open source experts, people like David Chaum and Adam Back and Hal Finney, Wei Dai, these types of people. And basically, they wanted to create some form of internet money. They said, information now moves instantaneously, so why can't money move instantaneously online? Makes sense, right? So Chaum in the 90s created DigiCash, which was a really novel venture, but it had this problem that you needed to have a centralized actor to facilitate things. So for a long time, people were trying to figure out, how do we build something where we can just like email for money, send value around, and it doesn't require any intermediary, any central person? Pretty simple to state, actually really hard to solve in practice. So in 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto published a white paper, followed by, on January 3rd of 2009, Bitcoin, and not people paid much attention to it. They didn't care too much. It wasn't a big thing in the beginning. Some people did, like Marty Malmy and Mike Hearn and Gavin Andresen and others, and then these very loyal adherents turned into what would later be the core developers. And for years and years and years, Bitcoin kind of was a fun little side thing. I remember the olden days. We would trade Bitcoins on spreadsheet. You would violate the EULA with PayPal and send PayPal transaction to Mt. Gox and buy some stuff. It was a pretty fun time that was very lighthearted, and everybody was in it for the technology because there was no money. We know this because the first conference I went to in San Jose, they didn't give us free coffee. You had to pay for it yourself. Then around 2013, we said, we like the concepts, but we would like programmability with these concepts. So programmability was like when JavaScript came to the web browser. In the early 90s and all the way up to the 2000s, the issue was that everything was kind of static. It wasn't interactive. So you could build pretty websites, but you couldn't interact with those websites. Then what happened? JavaScript comes, programmability comes, and then suddenly you have Amazon and Facebook and you have YouTube and you have all these amazing things. So analogously, I don't want to have a cryptocurrency that's blind, deaf, and dumb. I want to have a cryptocurrency that talks to things, works with things. I want to be able to program my transactions. So this was the dawn of smart contracts. This is what Ethereum brought in, the second generation. And the magic of the second generation was that suddenly you could issue assets. You could have DeFi. You could have NFTs. You could have all these amazing concepts and ideas like DAOs for the first time ever. And instead of having to build an entirely new cryptocurrency for each of these concepts, like Namecoin, for example, a fork of Bitcoin for a DNS system, or Mastercoin to issue an asset, you could just simply do all of it from one system. Then around 2015, we started talking about the third generation. We said, we like the decentralization. We like this tokenomics thing. It's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. We like programmability, but you know what? We're missing something. We would like to do this really quickly and fast, so we need scalability. Very simple to understand, hard to achieve. We'd like that as users join, we have enough resources for all of them. Fair enough. We want interoperability. There's over 10,000 blockchain systems. There's all these legacy systems. There's all these things going around. Okay, fair enough. We want them all to talk to each other. The Wi-Fi moment, the Bluetooth moment, it all just works. And if they're big projects that have your money and your identity, your entire financial life, we would like to have some notion of governance. How do they change? How do they evolve as people use them? And these are hard questions, and we term this the third generation of cryptocurrencies. And for a long time, the last 9 years, we as an industry have been chasing that. Some projects like Solana, for example, have focused an enormous amount of effort on scalability. And now they're moving into interoperability, into governance. Other projects focused an enormous amount on governance, like Polkadot and Tezos, for example. Other projects have tried to upgrade to become some variant of third generation. Ethereum is currently on this path. People are attempting to graft on with BitVM, Bitcoin, some capabilities to add programmability and scalability, and some new ways of handling governance. Cardano, we tried to be a balance of all of these things. But there's a fourth generation, and this is a barrier. It's kind of the meta. So let's talk about that today, because you've all heard third generation for a while now. It's been about 9 years of that. The fourth generation is the last mile in that, what do we hear again and again? I was just on a panel with the Hyperledger Fabric people, the Hyperledger Foundation. And there they said, hey, BCG said that the tokenization of real-world assets by 2030 is going to add $16 trillion of value to the blockchain industry. $16 trillion. That's a lot of money. I don't care who you are. Okay. Then people talk about securities. People talk about regulation. People talk about DAOs and businesses and countries running on a blockchain. The challenge is some stuff. What are you missing? You're missing identity. Legacy financial world, everything you do has your name on it, implicitly or explicitly. You have a bank account, you have a PayPal account, you have a Pix account. There's something you have. You've gone through a compliance step. You've done KYC, AML, knowingly or unknowingly. And as you transact, those transactions carry metadata, and that metadata has some notion of identity. We don't do this in crypto land. It's a problem for compliance and regulation. You're missing privacy. Everything we do in blockchain land is on a blockchain, transparent and auditable and time-stamped. Everybody can check it. Everybody can see it, right? Okay. Well, do you want everybody to be able to read all your emails or look at your medical records or take a look at your Amazon account and see what you've purchased or the Brazilian equivalent thereof? Probably not. Every business, every commercial activity, every endeavor in mankind has a public part and a private part. If you only do the public part, have you linked everything together? No. And third, when we talk about interoperability, let's double click it. Everybody has a token. Everybody launches new tokens. Everybody's trying to convince you their token is the end-all, be-all, and it will conquer the world. Buy my project. Look at how great we are. We have billions of dollars we printed and gave to ourselves to give to you, to convince you to join our project, and look at all these amazing things about our project. I'm old, so I've heard every damn speech you could ever imagine in every context. And I'm glad if this is your first time, but welcome aboard, you're going to hear it again. And the words change, the mechanisms are the same. Here's the problem. Giving people large sums of money doesn't get you a network effect. Much to the chagrin of Microsoft, when they spent $15 billion building Bing and giving away large sums of money to try to get Google's market share. Didn't do anything. And despite all this advancement and all this technology and all these wondrous and magical things we've constructed in the second generation and in the third generation, Bitcoin is still the largest cryptocurrency by far. And you can't do much on it. So there's something more to the story. Network effects are very tricky things to overcome. And when you look at new industries or emerging industries, how many of you would fund a completely new company that says, our business model for artificial intelligence is to put Facebook and Microsoft and OpenAI and Google and all these other people out of business? For us to win, they have to fail. Maybe they would, but that's got to be the most amazing business you've ever seen in your life. What if they said instead, we can partner with them, we can use them, we can interoperate with them, and we leverage and use the technology that they have to build something novel and new and interesting? You'd say, oh, tell me more. And that's the thing about where we're at as an industry. Network effects are network effects. They change for different reasons. They're unpredictable many of the times. Interoperability is about hybrid applications, the ability to use multiple blockchains at the same time. Your Ethereum application talks and works with your Solana application. Your Solana application works and talks with your Ripple application. Your Ripple application talks to your Cardano application. The challenge is that tokenomics in the legacy sense make it very difficult in practice to do this. Because not only have we created these silos as an industry, what have we done? We've created financial incentives for people to live within the silos. You have this token, they have this token. If somebody adopts this and uses this, they don't play nicely with each other. So in essence, the fourth generation is about a merger of these three concepts. We admit we need to figure out and come to terms with identity. We admit that we need to figure out something about privacy, and we need to do something about interoperability to the extent that we need to solve the financial incentives to work together. So about 6 years ago, I was in Israel, in Tel Aviv, and we were at Eurocrypt, first time they held it there, and it was a lot of fun. Those guys like to drink. And we were at a bar at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and we said, you know what we should do? Let's build one of those privacy coins. That would be a lot of fun. And it made perfect sense at the time because we were very drunk. And we said, you know, in 2 years we'll have it all figured out, we'll have it all done. That was the beginning of midnight. All good things usually involve some form of alcohol at some point. All bad things usually involve some form of alcohol at some point. So anyway, we underestimated, true to form, when have I ever made a deadline? We underestimated how complex and how long it would take and how much effort would it take. But what we did with the Midnight Project is we pulled those pieces together. The first thing that we were really curious about is it possible to combine multiple consensus algorithms together? You have proof of work. Bitcoin maxis love it. They believe in it. They worship it. Every night they go to bed and they kiss their miner and pray to it. You have proof of stake. Okay, well, what the hell do we mean by proof of stake? There's Vitalik's proof of stake. There's Solana's proof of stake. There's Cardano's proof of stake. There's a lot of different flavors of that rainbow, and they have different guarantees and performance and liveness and safety and all kinds of things. You have exotic protocols, like variants of BFT protocols that have strange ways of finding quorums. You have proof of storage and proof of network and all kinds of things. These are, abstractly speaking, what we like to call resource-based systems. So the resource is the proof of X, whatever you care about. So what if you could create a consensus protocol where you could put all of them together if you wanted to and pay rewards to each and every one of them? We thought about this, And I said, let's write a paper. So we put a team of people together at Princeton, UIUC, and some of our people at University of Edinburgh, and we wrote Minotaur. Some of the co-authors actually went on to create Eigenlayer over in the Ethereum space from it. But basically, it created a model that allowed us to combine multiple consensus protocols together. Why would you do that? Well, that means you can create a meta-currency, a meta-cryptocurrency, where you could pay the validators of multiple networks at the same time to secure your network. What does that mean? Everybody has an incentive to care because they get your tokens too. Whether you're a Solana holder or an Ethereum holder or a Bitcoin holder, you get some value from that. Second, each of these networks can be handpicked for operational resilience, so the flaws and failures of one can be compensated by the flaws and failures of the other one. Proof of work has a very different control and consensus model than proof of stake. Furthermore, it means you create a network of people directly observing each other, so you've actually inadvertently created the single best oracle and bridge system in the entire industry. So we created that protocol. Then we thought a lot about the identity problem. We said, what is the issue with identity? Well, the issue with identity is that first you have many versions of them. Second, you have disclosure regimes. Third, you have standards problems. So for 10 years, we've been working as an industry on something called DIDs at the W3C, the same standards body that standardized HTML and CSS and all these other things. And they created this concept of self-sovereign identity. But basically the idea is it's almost like a website for your ID. You have a URL and you have the page. So you have an identifier, a DID identifier, and a DID document, and you can put any arbitrary amount of metadata in that, and it's interoperable. So you can embed it in any legacy system, and you can embed it in any blockchain system. The Digital Identity Foundation, which uses the DID, has over 35 members, including us, Microsoft, IBM, and many people have built products based on this. The power of DIDs, though, comes in your disclosure capabilities. You have things like a non-creds. And what this allows you to do is prove properties about somebody without revealing the information. In the United States, we have weird drinking laws. You have to be 21 or older. So when you go to a bar and you order a beer, they ask you to see your driver's license. Okay, you show it to them. What does this do? It proves not only that you're at or over the age of 21, but you've leaked personally identifiable information about yourself. So what have you leaked? Your name, your address, you're an organ donor, whatever else is on that document. Now, scale this up in a modern economy. How many billions of dollars worth of data breaches happen? Because in the lubrication of commerce, people are required to collect massive quantities of personally identifiable information about you. And in the process of doing that, they hold it until someone hacks it and it gets leaked. A non-creds are a technology that allows you to prove things without revealing them. You prove you're at or over 21, but you reveal nothing else. So if you take DIDs and that concept, you put them together, you actually have a fundamental identity primitive that actually can bridge the legacy world that requires KYC and AML and bridge the cryptocurrency industry, which doesn't. Because at the end of the day, you own the credential and you're in charge of how those disclosures work. Are we done? No, we have that final third thing, computational privacy. This is a super hard concept, and it's in a broader field of programming language theory called verified computation. For a really, really long time, it's hard to ask the question, how do we know the program ran and the outputs we're looking at are correct? So let's say you've executed something for a really, really long time, you've done all this work, and the answer comes up to be always 42, the meaning of life. How do we know the computer actually gave us the right answer? Can we verify it or not? So there's a subfield, zero-knowledge cryptography, which has many things to say about how to answer that. We care about it in the cryptocurrency space because we use this technique and technology to prove properties about programs and outputs without necessarily revealing the program itself. And by extension, you can, in this model, embed privacy. So we were really curious, how do we go from the particular, which is for a specific application, like a ZK compression algorithm or a supply chain system or keeping your money private like Zcash does or Monero does, to a general purpose system where it's programmable, where you can actually take out some TypeScript and write a program and push it through. So that was a really fascinating question, and it turned out there's a way to do it. We wrote a paper called Kachina years ago, And we put that into Midnight as well. Now, what's super cool is when you put these three things together, multi-resource consensus, computational privacy, and identity, you start getting some incredible emergent properties. You get the ability to finally, for the first time ever, talk about the API economy, where people can pay in any cryptocurrency they want to pay in, they can build on any cryptocurrency they want to build on, and then when they decide to go into regulated business, when they decide to go from one geography to another geography, they can write an application specifically for those needs and automate most of it without necessarily violating the privacy of their users and without necessarily violating the ethos of the cryptocurrency industry as a whole. This is, in essence, the last mile, because every security requires broker-dealers, disclosure regimes, regulated actors. Every real-world asset has somebody who holds that real-world asset. You can't take land and put it in a blockchain. You can't take a gold bar and put it in a blockchain. You can't take real assets and guarantee 100% that what's on ledger is going to reflect what's in custody. It's not possible. It's a physical gap. So if you have these types of systems, what they allow you to do is to build hierarchies of disclosure and control to merge the permission systems, the centralized systems, governance systems, and decentralized systems all into one web. And you know what we call that? The modern economy. That's what it is. That's what it is. When you take a look at how business is done, no matter if it's a complicated trade finance, multilateral deal with ExxonMobil and Paribas and others coming together and saying, hey, let's go do oil, billions and billions of dollars worth of barrels and offshore rigs and all these things, multi-currencies, all the way down to I just want to buy something off of Etsy made in Ukraine by a single person, and I'm trying to figure out a way to pay them. Every single one of those things is encapsulated in this workflow. That's the magic of it. It turns out this is harder said than done, which is why we spent 6 years thinking about it, building it, and really figuring out ways to put this together. And also, it requires us to evolve a little bit as an industry in terms of our mentality. We enjoy, believe me, I am the one who enjoys more than anybody else taking professional jabs at each other. You know, and it's fun. It's like sports teams. It's like the Denver Broncos versus Kansas City or Argentina versus Brazil. We enjoy the rivalries. We enjoy these things. But the reality is no consumer in the world gives a damn if something is running on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, or Cardano. I've been walking around, guys, for 12 years. I've never met a normal person who's sitting at the bar saying, hey, that cryptocurrency stuff is great, but I'm only going to ever use applications on Ethereum. They don't even know what crypto is. Does anybody have preference on how your power is generated? When you look at your electric outlet, you're like, is that coal power coming out of that, or is that wind power? I'm only going to plug it in if it's wind power, right? Can you even ask? The vast majority of protocols that you look at, whether it be TCP/IP or anything in the entire stack that is the internet, the vast majority of these things are completely hidden to the user. How can we say we're going to get to billions of people? How can we say we're going to wire 100+ governments together and move trillions of dollars every single day if the customer has to care about the underlying technology and understand it? You can't. You have to make it seamless. You have to make it friction-free. You have to make it elegant. You have to make sure it never fails. And that's the last mile. And for these things to work, you have to start talking in adult, realistic terms about estate planning, account recovery. You have to talk about levels of control, disclosure, all these things. You know why? Because we're all young. We all started young. But what happens when you die? Where does your wallet go? When you get in an accident, you get cancer. I grew up with Hal Finney. He was an amazing man, a wonderful guy. He's dead. He died of ALS. And his family almost lost access to his Bitcoin. He was one of the guys who was a core developer. So what happens with the next generation? What happens for estate planning, taxes? What about disclosures? What do you want to disclose? To whom do you want to disclose it? You have businesses. Maybe disclosing how much you make and what you do is beneficial to you. You're looking for a loan. You're looking to start a business. You're looking to prove to a venture capitalist that you're an expert in something. Wouldn't you like to be in the driver's seat for these things? In modern business, you have this ability, and our industry has to add this ability in some form or fashion. And that's why I call it the fourth generation, because it is the generation that ties all the blockchains together. It's the generation that connects everything together. And it's the generation that gets us to stop fighting each other. I'm truly tired of the tribalism and the factions. And case in point, we have the polka dot people here somewhere. Is there anybody in the audience polka dot person? Come on, there's at least one. Don't be shy. All right, well, go to their booth and tell them I'm talking about them. Midnight, we didn't build on Cardano infrastructure. We started with Parity Substrate as the base. I'm the most do it with formal methods in Haskell. I mean, the guy who invented the Haskell programming language is right there. So,
yeah.
That's Professor Phil Wadler. He was on the original team that created Haskell. He also created the first online computer game, by the way. He worked at the lab that created the internet with Vint Cerf, and he used it to test the internet. He's a fellow in the Royal Society, too. We got good people in this audience, you know? You didn't know that, did you? But I love these things. I truly do. But if you believe in interoperability and you believe in diversity and you believe in connecting things together, you can't just use one technology. You can't. You have to hybridize things. You have to pull things together. Not every single thing that Solana does is a bad idea. There's actually good ideas there, just like Tezos and just like Polkadot and just like Ethereum and just like Bitcoin. Bitcoin alone gave us so many ideas. UTXO became extended UTXO. Color coins became the Cardano native asset standard. All these ideas in the beginning about how to put smart contracts on Bitcoin influenced our thinking when we created Plutus to put smart contracts on Cardano. Now, you modify them, you change them, but that's the point of open source. That's the point of these environments. And working together means we learn from each other, we build from each other. So as we look to the fourth generation, it's rapidly dawning upon us. The zero-knowledge technologies are evolving rapidly, the identity products are evolving rapidly, and consensus algorithms are upgrading rapidly. You see this with the rise of EigenLayer on Ethereum, you see it with what we're doing with Midnight, and there's dozens of other people that are starting to realize that this is going to be the last mile. I will caution you that the most important thing to remember when you embrace a new generation is not to lose the lessons of the prior generations. When we talk about the third generation, scalability is still important. No one disagrees with that because they like better, faster, cheaper. They have pretty slides about how many TPS they have. Interoperability, we've just covered this a lot. Yes, of course it's important. But things like governance and really breaking it down to what does that mean? What preserves the integrity of your system? The monetary policy of your system? What preserves the system's overall first principles that it was founded upon so you don't leave anybody behind? That often gets forgotten because it's convenient. Principles are easy to uphold until they're not, and then a lot of us tend to violate them, which is why we venerate the people who seldom do, even when it's against their best interest. The second generation brought us smart contracts. What were smart contracts about? This concept of uncensorable applications. Why would you care that it runs with a smart contract if not for the fact that you get a math-based guarantee that somebody can't shut it down? Why not just run on Amazon? Why not just run on Azure or any of these types of things, right? Because it's cheaper, it's faster. Believe me, it's really easy to use Amazon Web Services, okay? Why do we build these weird Rube Goldberg virtual machines in the sky, which are really hard to make and seldom work the way we want them to, and they have all these weird vectors of attack? We build them because we want censorship resistance. We want resilience. We want an assurance that no matter where we're born, whether that be Brazil or Argentina or Russia or India or America or Germany, we're treated the same way because we're human beings. This is a human right. And finally, when we look to Bitcoin, what did it teach us? The value of sound money. You don't dilute your monetary policy. You don't sacrifice the investments, work, and effort of the early holders for the convenience of attracting new holders into the system. It's a pretty basic principle. We believed in it for 5,000 years when we had gold-backed money. We forgot about it in the modern era when we started building fiat currencies. And now I live in a country with $35 trillion in debt. 50% of every tax dollar we collect goes to pay the interest on that debt. By the year 2030, the Budget Office estimates 100% of all U.S. tax revenue will go to pay the interest on the U.S. debt. We do not have sound money anymore. We're going to go on a fact-finding mission to Venezuela so that we can learn what to do next. Because let's be honest here, nothing lasts forever if you abandon first principles. So Bitcoin taught us first and foremost, and it's why it's still the most valuable cryptocurrency, regardless of how slow it is and what it can't do, that integrity first and always matters. So as we embrace the fourth generation, and many of the people in the room are going to be builders on it or builders of it with their future projects and current projects, you have to always remember where you came from. The reason Bitcoin exists is because for decades and decades, builders in prior eras wrote it down, good principles and ideas, the cypherpunk movement and the things that came before it. The reason Bitcoin exists is because the open source movement exists. The reason Bitcoin exists is because the internet exists. And the reason Ethereum exists is because of Bitcoin. The reason Cardano exists is because of Ethereum. And the reason Midnight exists is because of Cardano. And in this, it gives me some hope as I kind of close out the conference, because I think I'm between you and dinner, in that every single leader in this industry who did something just a very small period of time ago was a nobody. We didn't have any power. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any prestige. Didn't even have these funny shirts that have octopuses on them. Didn't have anything. But you know, we all were self-made in our own way. Everything came from nothing. And that's the magic. And the lesson in that is that you can change things. You can build things. You are in charge of your own destiny. This is the first time in human history that we actually have a front row seat to define the economic, political, and social systems of the world around us. It's the first time we can build fair election systems and sound money. It's the first time we can build censorship-resistant social networks. It's the first time where we actually get to negotiate what our humanity means. And the people who are on the front lines don't have to ask permission. They don't have to be rich. And they're not from any geography. They can be right here in Brazil. They can be in Eritrea. They can be in Nigeria. When I created Ethereum with the other 7 founders, we were one of the first blockchain entities in Switzerland. The Swiss had no clue what cryptocurrency was. The only reference point they had, there was 2, was Mt. Gox and Silk Road. That's where we started. It was not pleasant. However, I'll never forget what the mayor of Zug told me when he signed our tax ruling for the crowd sale for Ethereum. He said, "Welcome to Switzerland. Don't make it our problem." Fast forward 10 years later, over almost 200 businesses in the cryptocurrency industry have been founded there for a combined total value of $384 billion. It's one of the largest industries in the entire country of Switzerland, one of the most conservative, oldest countries and most stable countries that has this ossified banking sector, has embraced this technology, and they created Crypto Valley in Zug. There's almost more crypto companies than people in Zug. That is the power of who we are and what we are as an industry. So there's no reason it can't happen here in Brazil. And there's no reason it can't happen anywhere. It's completely dependent upon each and every one of you and what you want to achieve and where you want to go. And as a final point to that, it takes some time. It's only been 15 years. If this was the oil and gas business, the year would be 1885. If this was the aerospace industry, the year would be 1965. If this was the beginnings of the internet, the year would be 1985. You see how early it is. So have fun. Make a friend and build some things. I know I have, and I can't wait to see you on the other side of the fourth generation. It's going to be a fun cycle. 2025 is likely going to be a very wild year, but I'm not going anywhere. That's why I shaved, because I wanted to be young again with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Could you please take a picture with Thales? Thales, por favor, vem encerrar aqui o evento com a gente. Tamo junto.
Bring the flag up.
Esse momento é histórico, pessoal.
Hey, good to see you, man. Nice to see you, Francisco. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
You help me hold this up, huh?
Faz barulho aí, galera! Tem história acontecendo aqui, hein, gente? Que é isso?